After the fall of the Alamo, Santa Anna had soldiers in place here in Goliad area, as well as Gonzales. The Mexicans were moving in from the south. And there was a fort called La Bahia where Fannin had a good contingency between 300 and 400 soldiers. And Santa Anna was going to stop that. He wasn't going to allow Texans to unify in number. The Alamo has already been defeated. And so the Mexicans moved into this area, and Fannin, Commander James Fannin, he was a colonel just like Travis. He was guarding his men the best that he could. He was only 32 years of age, and Houston exhorted him to leave the position and get to Victoria, which is about 9 miles from this battlefield. This is known as Fannin's battlefield. It was here that he was caught off guard because of making some poor decisions. He didn't make haste to get to Victoria and the fort with more soldiers. And with ox carts breaking, running out of water, just lots of ill planning. And the Mexicans came unexpectedly, much faster than he had anticipated. So caught out in this field, of course this is just a shadow of it, the grass was waist high. The Mexicans moved in, and like George Armstrong Custer, literally he was surrounded by the Mexican army. And he took the dead oxen that were shot and made barricades, took some of the ox carts, flipped them over, typical like those wagon train movies that you've seen where they circle the camp. He basically circled himself in, somewhat in a box formation with about 80 soldiers on each side to protect themselves. And General Urrea, the Mexican general, said that he fought like a tiger. He was very impressed with their formation. And they launched an assault. It went for several hours and then finally came into the night. And Fannin thought, I should surrender. Some of his men said surrender. Others said no. We should have made it to the trees. You were so slow. They were exhorting him. You were so slow, you didn't take our advice to get you into some foliage. But he thought, well, they were so far away, what's the use of being in such a hurry? That cost him his life and his 300 men. The next day they surrendered, basically. They knew they couldn't fight. Some of his men were wounded. They had no water. They had no food. It was a mess, a fiasco. So he surrendered in good conscience. General Urrea thought that he could give him good terms of surrender, and yet Santa Anna said no. The Mexican government said that anybody who fights against us is like a pirate, a rebel, and they will be killed. So Fannin didn't know that. They marched them back the 7 miles to La Bahia, which is just by here, and the next day they gathered them up. They went outside for foraging, like for looking for firewood and food and water. They kind of faked them out to get out of the fort, and then they surrounded them and shot them like dogs. Few escaped. They pretended they were dying and shot and dead kind of thing, and they didn't look the bodies over very thoroughly, and so they escaped to tell the horrible story. That's why Houston later on said at San Jacinto, remember the Alamo and remember Goliad. Another expression was remember the Alamo and remember La Bahia, the fort where Fannin was. So it's either Goliad or La Bahia, it's all in the same area, was the war cry, because the Texans were torn apart with such a horrible massacre of over 300 men, including Fannin, who was shot in the face. It was a mess. There is a lesson, and I say this respectfully. Fannin made a serious miscalculation of the enemy, and we as Christians have to know that we have an enemy that wants to get us off guard, and we can't let our guard down. Why do you think we have Ephesians chapter 6 that talks about putting on armor? Why does it say to pray always? Why does Jesus say to pray and to watch? That's the byword is watching and praying, being alert. And part of us is spiritually being alert is being in the Word, being fixated on Jesus Christ and His Word, and analyzing the world and those things around us, the enemy and the strategies and the tactics. Because listen, we can't just assume that we become Christians and then the battle is over. The battle was just to get us saved, and praise God, now that we're saved, we're on the other side of the fort, like, yes, we can lay back and take it easy. No, that happens after we die. We have to continue to garrison our lives, surround ourselves in prayer and around Christians, and realize the enemy is subtle and he wants to bring us down. He wants to basically assassinate us and kill us. He is always working to our destruction and to destroy the work of Jesus Christ. So my admonition to all of us is to be on guard, to be vigilant, and to be watching, and to know that we can't let our guard down. We've got to get into the brush, the cover, the umbrella of God's protection by us trusting Him and knowing there's an enemy out there like a roaring lion seeking whom He may devour. I leave you with this word to pause and ponder.